Hello and welcome to the next one in our little series of skills development videos. So this one is carrying on the theme that I started on the first one, which is looking at idea development and how you might generate some ideas and how you might develop an idea for a game or a narrative that you might be working on. A lot of the time, those ideas can come from when you least expect it, in timing wise. It might be that you're in the middle of a lecture, you're taking notes and you're putting some bits together and doodling on the side, or just mucking about watching telly or anything along those lines, and that's when some of those ideas really kind of pop into your head. So we're going to look at something today that can really help with that, and especially when we're looking at characters and the movement of those characters and the animation of those characters ultimately. So we are going to do some work on some stick figures. Alright, so I am going to jump to another screen. There we go. Oh, there's my little man. I just started him off. So we're going to look at some stick figures. I'm just going to finish him off. So we've got one more leg to do. There we go. All right, so we've got our little man kind of running along there. Let's give him a floor to kind of run off of so that we can see where he's going. All right, and the good thing about this, if you're an upper sixth student and you've used Fuse or anything along those lines, or if you looked into animating your characters through Blender or anything like that, then this is as key to you as it is anyone just trying to develop a simple stick figure, because you'll see that our stick figure there has 10 points in terms of 10 joints, if you like, of where he might be able to move and when they might be able to articulate. All right, so we've got our neck and shoulders is definitely for one. We've got our elbows, and then we've got our wrists for our top part. You've got your hips or your groin, and then we've got our knees and our ankles. All right, so 10 different places where we can move our character, and as you start developing your animation skills, it's exactly the same. You'll look at those key areas initially, and then yes, obviously there'll be tweaks as you go through, and with hands and with facial movement and bits and pieces as you go. All right, but that's where we start. So stick figures can really kind of jump in and help us straight away. So if we have a little look, then we've got the idea of, you might have a basic stick figure, and this is great if you're oh, there's his leg going the wrong way. That's not helpful. Let's start again. Done his leg the wrong way around. That'll be right. So let's have him there. Let's have a leg there. It needs to go back this time. That's right. And then we can have a straight leg down there. A bit of an arm. We have him waving. Alright, and we can give him a bit of a square head. Alright, I'll come back to why he's got a square head in a second. But straight away we've got our basic stick figure. Alright, so he's kind of looks like he's looking on the floor. He's kind of got one hand in the air, whatever he might be doing. Looks a bit like a waiter holding a tray. But what you can do is you can start looking at how you can add in some volume to your characters straight away, and really simply get the idea of developing a little bit of anatomy into our character from the get-go. So we can just do a little bit of almost a teardrop design on there. We can add in a little bit kind of on the top half of his legs, just to kind of bulk that out a little bit. A little bit, just kind of tapering the lower part of his legs, and just a little bit finer than the top half. Similar with his arms, kind of weird long arm on that side. All right, and just straight away we're almost getting the sense of our character now. And we've got a bit more anatomy, we've got a bit more to play with. The interesting thing about a square head, a lot of the time when you see stick figures, you'll have kind of a circular head or whatever that might be. What's nice about having a square head is that you have that kind of line of sight a little bit more. It's a bit easier to see where the front of the face might be, and where your character might be looking, where they might be moving to. So it's something that you can play around with, and something that you can muck about with a little bit more. All right, so that's our stick figure initially. So we've got different points of articulation. We've got different points of where we can start playing around with how they might stand up and how they might develop with a little bit of anatomy as you go through. All right. what we then start looking at is how we can play around with curves. So we've done straight lines so far. So what you can do, so if we had a straight line figure, so let's do it this way. So we've got a guy looking like this. So this, I'm going this way. Let's do a square head again. Give him little hands just so we know what he's doing. Oh, my square's gone a bit weird. There we go. Right, so we've got our straight lines there, but then what we can do is we can start playing around and look at the curves. So the main curve that you want initially is the line of the spine. Okay, so we can see we've got it straight in here, but we can start bending that round. So if we just bend that round and maybe have it kind of join up with that line at the bottom there as his leg, and then have this leg just coming off there, we've got a very similar anatomy of our body. Let's just get that square in on his head. Now we're starting to play around with that curve, and you can see almost immediately that you've got a little bit more life and a little bit more movement into our stick figure. And all we've done is started to play around with the curves rather than have the stick element of it in there. All right, and you can start playing around with how that might change the dynamic of your character. So we've got one here where we've got a bit of an arched back, so we can have an arm off there, and we can bend our body round, and this time I'm going to bend it round so it comes in line with the leg at the back, and have this one coming off straight. Let's have a little bit of a hand going off that way, and then we'll do our square. Alright, and we can just kind of thicken it out a little bit, just to give it a bit more definition. And straight away we've got a bit more of a strut going on with our character as they're looking at moving along. So you've got this kind of line going on here, which is your curve, and arching that back a little bit to play around with. On this one we had the curve coming down here as we joined in a line, but also we've got this bit of a curve that you could play around with in that arm there. So you've got the development of your stick figure straight away, and you can start playing around with what that means and what's that suggesting about your character. And when you're looking at the different characters that you're developing and that you're thinking about, even just from a stick figure, how do they walk? How do they move? What does that say about their role in your game, in your narrative? Are they kind of scrunched up because they're intimidated or they're scared of something? Or are they strutting their stuff because they're kind of lord of all that they purvey, or whatever it might be? Okay, so we've got some ideas going through there, and you can play around with gestures, and you can play around with the curves and exaggerate them a little bit more as you go through. One nice one is where you start kind of playing around with secondary limbs. So if we had a bit of a curve going off this way, and then we have our, and then we've got this one going on, maybe a bit of a kind of in back there, and then we'll have our square going that way. What have I done? I've missed a leg. There we go, that way, and then you can kind of play around and thicken that out. Quite like this one because it's how my back feels after sitting here trying to do these videos for you lot too often. But again, you can start looking at where those lines are coming in. So you've got that kind of arched back coming across here, but then you've got that curve at the front coming in there as well, and playing around with that. All right, so you've got some idea there of how you can start playing around with different elements of your stick figures, and really kind of get them moving and get them coming to life just by some simple tweaks and changes as you go through. What I will do is I will post to you. In fact, if I can remember what display I'm on. There we go. So in my first video, what I showed you is that it's these tutorials from the Everything Brothers, who put these little skill sessions and little tutorials on their blog and what have you, and I've just gone through this one with you, and they're just great. They're fantastic in terms of developing your ideas, developing your understanding. So we've just had a little look at this one, and I've gone through it with you. There's our arch back, and as you went through and looking at how you exaggerate those limbs, and there's that kind of line of sight that I was talking about and playing around with there. So really basic stick figures, but really kind of helping with your animation and your understanding of the anatomy of how a character might work. And it may be that you aren't going to be the animator of your design team and your games development team. It may be that you are the programmer or that you're writing the story. But we've always said that if you have a little bit of an understanding of how each area works, how the programmer thinks, how the designer thinks, how the artist thinks, how the writer and the narrative development team work, then you've got an understanding. You can build a better system into your game and you can do your part even better. All right, so I would encourage you to have a little look. What we've not done is done part B, so you can jump on and have a little look at this. It's under stick figures. The link will be in the description as ever. But you can just play around with these, and once you've started doing a few, you'll realise that it's really simple to just play around with it and get it wrong and try it again and bend the leg that goes the wrong way and see what happens and play around with different elements of the arms and the anatomy and thicken things out. Play around with line of sight as you go along. All right, so have a go, see what you can come up with, see if you can get a sequence in place. You've all done kind of work within Piscal and the stop frame animation stuff that we've done. Can you do that with a stick figure? Can you get the jump animation but just in stick figure form? What changes, what develops as each section goes through? See what you can find. Develop your own little sprite sheets of stick figures in a pad, on a bit of scrap paper, wherever it might be, and it will help develop your understanding all the way through. All right, so see what you can come up with. It'll be great to see what you do. And if you kind of want to post it and ping it our way, then let us know and we will try and share that with everyone in the groups as we go forward. All right, good stuff. That's it for today. Stick figures. Have a look, see what you can come up with.